right, everybody, welcome back to the Climbing Majority podcast. Today's a little bit different. Kyle and I are just going to kind of discuss 2023 for the Climbing Majority and what 2024 is going to be like. And, I think it was a pretty amazing / crazy year for us. And that was really, really awesome to experience and to go through. So, yeah. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Yeah, it's been an awesome year. I can't even express the excitement and gratitude I have for this project, for our partnership, and for everybody listening, especially for people listening to this episode. Really means a lot that you're here. And I'm just, we're really excited for things to come. But, like Max alluded to, we're going to kind of dive a little bit into what our year was like personally. We did go through some accidents. I was actually just thinking about this recently. It's been a year and a few days since I got my hardware out, which is pretty interesting. It feels like way longer. But yeah, I mean, Max and I were both in injuries, and that was kind of the premise of this whole podcast. You can go back to the beginning of the show just for nostalgia's sake, to see how we've progressed over the last 24 months. But also just to hear the story and kind of why this podcast exists. And that's, because of our injuries. We both broke our ankles, and, it created this podcast and also taught us a lot about ourselves and stuff. And so for me personally, with this year, it's been a lot of kind of reintroducing myself to what climbing's like post injury. And I still deal with a lot of pain day to day, lack of mobility, but I'm still able to climb a lot and have got a lot of cool stuff done this year. How's the injury affecting your climbing and your life at this point?
Yeah, I still have like general stiffness and various issues. Of course, it's not what it once was, and I can't run like I used to. But with enough, with being diligent and calculated and doing enough rehab and doing the things I need to do, I can get away with doing almost anything I really need to do. And it's like Quinn said in 2022, motion is lotion. If I don't move, I don't exercise, I don't stress it, it gets worse. And obviously, training for Denali, that was such an aerobically intensive process with so many a high training volume for us. And so to be able to get through that and do that was really remarkable and felt really, really amazing and accomplishing. And it's been an interesting ride, and having to adapt to the situation at hand, right? It's like, this is lack of better terms, the deck of cards that I've been dealt, and I really do feel I'm making the best of it. And of course, it's easy, like on a podcast, to paint it in such a positive light, and I'm so happy, like, of course, like there's some bad moments, some darker moments, some pain, things hurt. Like I wish I never had been injured, but ultimately that's life and it is what it is. And I think the fact that I may be able to go from an injury such as that, and about, I don't know, 2 years later or whatever, be at the top of the tallest peak in North America is pretty remarkable. And I'm really, really ecstatic about those results. And I think also, you kind of touched on this before, but just in general with the podcast, I feel so much gratitude to the audience, and it's such a privilege to be able to have people tuning in and listening to this. It's just a really, really amazing project that I'm really proud of, and I'm really happy to be here. And I'm really excited to continue doing this in the future with you. Just like this partnership, the things we've learned, and the conversations we have, and just constantly walking away from these conversations with guests and just feeling great. Like, hey, I just learned a lot. I just had this awesome, rad conversation with this person. And it's just been crazy. And also just going through the list of people in 2023 that we had on the show, and the connections we built, and the conversations we've had, it's just it does feel really remarkable and really awesome to be continuing this project here into 2024.
For sure. Yeah, we we were just chatting about just like the personal development that comes from a project like this. Like you said, you walk away from these conversations like learning something. And it's cool that we're going through that just as much as our audience. Like, if you're tuning into every episode, you're learning these lessons, just as much as we are. And everybody brings their own personal experience to the table, obviously. And, someone's going to get something different from each episode. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much value packed in these episodes and these conversations that we've been having. And I mean, personally, it's shaped who I am. Not only the skills developed, being on air and using equipment and having to articulate thoughts in a professional manner, but just speaking with people that are so accomplished and the way they speak, the way they talk, trying to extract information out of them that's relatable to everyone, has been just such a great personal development, for the show itself, and yeah, for me personally. So it's been really cool. I second all your thoughts there.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. I feel I've gone through several iterations of myself, even this last couple year period. It's you know, injuring myself severely through the pandemic, going through surgery, dealing with all of the, COVID lockdowns and the psychological stress of that situation, meeting you, rehabilitating myself, making this, like going through school. There's just so many things going on that have been like very, very difficult and trying, but also character building. And yeah, and I just feel like I've gone through several iterations for myself. It's just been like an expedited process of growth in a lot of ways. And just the other day you sent me that picture of, I think it was like one of the first recording situations we had or whatever, like a couple years ago. And it's really crazy how much things have changed. And yeah, it's I don't know. It's a really crazy project, and I'm so happy to be here doing it. Essentially, it's just like the bottom line for what it is. So yeah.
100%. And it's cool that, we're not just like, oh, now we just make podcasts and we aren't climbers anymore. We're just like these, begrudging,
Just
curmudgeon
living through all the
people, just
guests.
like can't climb
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I used to be able to climb. But yeah, man, we're doing our own thing. I mean, you fucking summoned Denali. That's so badass. And especially after an injury
Mm.
too, like that. I mean, fucking hell. So it's just really cool that, we're interviewing guests. Obviously we can't compare ourselves to some of these guests that
Yeah.
we've brought on the show. But I mean, that's just a testament to what the whole podcast is about. We are the majority, and climbing can be
Mm.
experienced by anybody and by everybody. And, we each have something to bring to the table with our stories and our experiences. And I like the fact that even though we've had this barrier in front of us of um, risk management and dealing with the fear and the trauma of PT, like having to go through PT, like we're still out there doing what we need to do. And we're still out there living that climber experience. And I think that the show wouldn't be the same without that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's so many things that we've talked about, obviously, but one of them is that identity of a climber and the intrinsic worth of a climber. And for me, the connections we're building through the show, for us, it's just like a public extension of what a lot of other climbers go through, of people who they meet in the community. And like tomorrow night, like Ray and I were gonna go have dinner with Callum and Anya. Callum, guest on the show, kind of met him online through the climbing community, had this amazing experience climbing with him, and then had him on the show. And he's one of my best friends. Like now, like he's an amazing guy. We see so eye to eye on so many things. I just absolutely love spending time with him and conversations with him. And I think that's something that's just so amazing about climbing is it's this art form, it's this physicality, but then it's also a way of just connecting with like-minded people. And obviously likewise to like you and I. We've just built this
Yep.
really unlikely online relationship through injury, through a pandemic that then like culminated in us actually, like this year I got to fly down to Vegas and like meet you in person and like hug
Yeah.
you. And like, that's funny when we like first met and like looked you in the eyes.
I
And
was like, whoa, he's tall.
yeah, it was like, oh, I didn't get catfished. This wasn't just like some weird person online, like completely lying to me this whole time. It's I don't know. It's very 21st century to actually, I already knew you really, really well before meeting you in person. To me, that's, like, fortunately, I guess, like, maybe prior to meeting Ray, I used some dating apps or websites or something, but for the most part, not really at all. Like, Ray and I met organically through running guiding, and we both worked at the same company, and we have this amazing relationship. So, like, I think that's more ubiquitous now with the younger generation, where people meet each other online and then they have the interactions, whereas, like, that's not really that normal for me. And for us to, like, have this essentially kind of like intimate, like, knowledge of each other in a lot of ways, and I truly felt like I knew you really well, like you were a good bud of mine, and I just never met you in person, and then to, like, go down and meet you, it was like, wow, what a crazy bizarre experience. And yeah, it was just great, man. I feel like there's a lot of awesome, wholesome things out of this project. So that's been really awesome.
For sure, man. Yeah, it is interesting you bring up the point where it's like, I don't know, like sitting down right here in the studio, it's like this such a familiar thing. It's like I'm in the same room with you,
Yeah.
but you're in fucking Canada and I'm in
Yeah.
Nevada. It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It's
But
it's
yeah,
really
I mean,
crazy.
technology is awesome. It brings people together. And yeah, I mean, when everybody asks the story of the podcast, I always like, like, yeah, like you found me on Instagram, and then we just jump on the call and start to commiserate. I'm just like, damn, like this is a sick conversation. Like they were just like hammering out these talking points. Just like, yes, like that's so dope. And I remember specifically like hearing your voice. I was like, whoa, this guy's got a cool voice. And then like, I'm like, I think it was like literally the first conversation we had. We probably talked for like 30 minutes, and like 20 minutes in, we're like, we should start a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a
And then
we had a good conversation. I
it was
remember. Yeah.
good, man. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And then like it was like, all right, let's schedule another call. 2 weeks later, we're both in our fucking wheelchairs. Uh, you know.
Yeah.
And then yeah, 2 weeks later, the same thing. We jump on a call. I'm just like, again, such a banger conversation. I'm just like, all right, we have to start a
Yeah.
podcast. And yeah,
Yeah.
here we are 2 years later. It's just so crazy.
Dude, I remember that, just being mangled in a wheelchair, like,
Yep.
so immobilized. You'd, like, send me a photo of you, like, lying on your carpet in the living room with your legs up, just trying to alleviate pain. We're both, like,
Yep.
popping opioids, just, like, trying to get through, like, the post surgery, era.
Yep.
It's really, really crazy. So yeah. But something else I feel like we've tried to cultivate, like, through this experience is, um, of course, it's really hard to just 100% authenticity, purely represent yourself when you're in a recorded environment and stuff. Like, that's a really difficult thing to do. But in general, when we met in person and stuff, there wasn't like this superficiality, like, oh, I knew online Kyle. I feel we've
Mm-hmm.
tried our
Mm-hmm.
best really to just, as authentically as possible, represent ourselves in this kind of space and go through this in a really public manner. And that's a really bizarre experience, honestly, like it is in some capacity. But I also do feel we have kind of like towed the line in a really, I don't know, I would say, good way. And I'm really happy with that, like, just feeling at ease to just, and I would also attribute some of that to just, climbing's just this such a magical, amazing thing that so many people are just passionate about in ways that you can truly just, you're just like emotional and express yourself about it in some capacity, if that makes sense. So yeah,
I
I
think
don't know.
that I don't know if I'm speaking for you, but like an introvert at heart, I would say, and I
Hmm.
think you've agreed with that statement as
Yeah.
well. And it's like I think that there, some podcast personalities or actors, I guess you could call them. They're like they have this persona that they've built in terms of how they present themselves, right? And it's almost like an act. And for us, it's more of like I don't have the skills to act any other than I already am, and I already have a hard time presenting who I am in the first place. Like coming up with a whole other ego that is a personality is like so far fetched. I couldn't even begin to think of how to do that. And so, yeah, like you said, it's just like developing the skills to accurately represent what's going on in your head, your heart, and your soul. And it's like, how do you articulate that in a professional manner? And that's, what this podcast has done for us is to be able to at least move in a direction that's, that's positive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think, like, you know, if we're talking about like moving in a direction, 2023 was this, it's crazy actually, even just saying 2023 being like, wow, like this is this is the year we're in. It's insane. And
Yeah.
like that's been this obviously amazing experience and project. And now we're moving into 2024 to a new season with TCM, which is going to be I don't know. I'm really ecstatic. I'm very excited. I'm I'm very, very yeah, excited to just deliver more interesting conversations and conversations that I'm fascinated by, and to just have more conversations with guests. It's just such a privilege to be able to do that. It's really, really exciting. So yeah.
Just in terms of like looking forward, one thing that I think we've always been very focused on is treating this podcast like a business, and providing professional quality. And Max and I both, you know, had no idea what the fuck we were doing when we started this project. Like Max said, that picture of me, I've got like my mic propped up with like books so it doesn't fall over. We were using the wrong mic, and the audio quality was really bad. If you followed us from the beginning, I appreciate you still being here.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, on that note of professionalism and treating this podcast like a business, we have some pretty big goals for 2024. And we I mean, first off, we want to create a website. Right now we're hosting, off of a third party, and we're excited to create our own identity out there on the internet, and create a place for more content to be shared, to host the RSS feed that we share with you, potentially start to create blogs and start to add to the community. So we have some pretty big goals in that realm. So we're excited for you all to be a part of it. And then I think the next big step for us is looking for sponsorships. I think that there's no way to beat around it. This is a business. It takes a lot of our time, our money, and our heart and soul. And while this is a passion project, we want to scale it. We want to interview people live. We want to add more quality to the show, and that takes time and money. And so we're looking for key sponsorship opportunities and a way to professionally present that, as well as some other exciting advancements as well. So in the end, though, it's all about the product. It's all about quality, and it's all about continuing the ultimate foundation for what this show is and what we've created so far.
Yeah, and just having like good, authentic discussions. It's almost like the goal is just you're all sitting down at dinner with a glass of wine and you're just going to talk about climbing the whole time. Like just having these
For
good,
sure.
meaningful, authentic, interesting discussions and just diving deep into topics. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to bringing more of that in the future. And absolutely, like both things can be true at the same time. It's this passion project. We absolutely love this. And part of the reason for that is that like, yeah, I want to do this for a living. This is amazing. I want to continue doing this. I want to continue develop this into something really meaningful and amazing, into something that lasts. And, you know, um, Kyle, we've had this discussion of exactly what you're saying, building this out, trying to find other avenues, speaking more, having more meaningful conversations, filming conversations in person. Like I'll be flying down to Vegas again in 2024 and, trying to, have some in-person interviews again, and getting to climb with Kyle and film content, and, doing all these things that are, I don't know, pretty cool, just and really interesting, and obviously extremely thankful to people who are following along for the journey, listening into conversations, and then not to single people out, we appreciate everybody, but to anybody who's been following the journey from the beginning, thank you so much. That's really, really meaningful, and I do think we have this really, really interesting chronology of kind of watching Kyle and I go from this like broken, decrepit state and trying to work our way through, and now we're here. It's really interesting. It's a cool project, I think. So yeah.
It is, yeah. And yeah, I mean, the growth should be awesome, and our progression as a brand and as a business and as people will just continue to surprise us, I'm sure, which will be
Yeah.
great.
And on a personal note for myself, like this year climbing, I've got some pretty And once again, these are of course always subjective, but I think in line with talking with Mary Eden is what are these kind of limitations that we put on ourselves and that we hamstring ourselves? And, for me personally, I think this year, I'm really looking forward to trying sport climb my first 12A. And that's like a mega jump for me in sport climbing for anybody who's ever
Oh yeah.
like listened to me or my grades. Like, this is not like I'm going from like 11C to 12A. It's not a thing. So it's a huge jump. And that's a really interesting goal. And right now, I'm also in the process of talking with my brother and Ray, and potentially some other people. And, we're looking at maybe climbing Aconcagua. So that's like a 7,000
Damn.
meter peak in South America. Pretty
Damn.
classic, like simple mountaineering route. But yeah, you mix in the podcast, climbing adventures like that, and school, and it's going to be a really really busy year. And I think, kind of once again alluding to that episode with Mary, it seems really really difficult and kind of outlandish for me, but at the same time I really think if I put my mind to it and I try really hard, I think I can do all those things, but I have to want to do it, and I
Oh yeah,
have to
dude.
not limit myself
Yep.
psychologically to do it.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my radar, I've got some filming objectives. I think that's like a big push for me this year. Is a lot of my document my like filming goals with Joey and also potentially with Jason Hardrath. And then climbing wise, I think the new thing that hit my plate was aid climbing the nose on El Cap in May.
Wow, that'd be
So
crazy.
we'll see how that pans out. But Bryce is really psyched on it, and he'd be the stoke for the fire. But I might be able to be on board and go experience that for sure. It'd be pretty sweet.
Dude, that'd be so crazy. The nose is just like, oh, such a dream to be able to get on that route. Wow, that's
Get
amazing.
into the Congo line.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. I think short and sweet is the magic here. You know, we appreciate you all being here. I guess I'll just leave you all with the message to reach out. Like if you like the show, you've been following us for a while, please DM us on Instagram or reach out to our email. We love to hear from you guys. Please rate and review the show. Spotify ratings are and reviews are huge for our show in terms of recommending to other people that might not have found us yet, and also word of mouth. The more you guys talk about the show, the better. We appreciate any support and all support you guys have for us, and ultimately, you guys being here in the first place is the foundation. So, we appreciate you being here, and we hope to continue creating the magic for you.